Hey there, Internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, nerds?
What is going on? And we have Logan Wilkinson joining us. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing wonderful. How are y'all doing?
Doing all right. Cameron and I just sat down, recorded the Patreon early access episode for this month, kind of hitting at the end of January, so we go live for everybody end of February, and we basically talked about some of our kind of gaming blind spots, kind of some of those notable games and franchises that we just really don't have much insight on, despite their popularity in the gaming space. And then we kind of took some tangents into like skateboarding, in part because like Tony Hawk Pro Skater is a large one in mine. We ended up just talking about like Cameron's connection to skater culture for a little bit there. So find out what a young hoodlum and hooligan Cameron was, I guess.
That's
Oh,
all
that's
right.
true,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like very much on purpose do not try to like talk too much about my past in regards to I will fully admit that like I was a like
you were a little
I was a
you were a little shitbird.
I was yeah I was a little shitbird. I was a burnout fucking loser as a kid and a teenager. So like I don't go into too much detail there, so don't
Perfect.
worry about if you're just gonna like hear about my crimes. But like thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, because it came up. I was like, my mom didn't really want me to be like doing skating, and then I realized it's like I did a lot. Like there's a lot my parents don't even like know about that I did, and it all like I'm not gonna say it started with skating culture, but skating culture and like being part of it certainly didn't help prevent me from committing crimes. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
So yeah.
it's a fun little episode. Check it out if you are one of our Patreon supporters, or you can wait until the end of February and check it out then. If you do like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. I mentioned on the Patreon early access episode, because we kind of do that rigmarole all the time. We talk about reviewing the podcast and stuff. I finally, after more than a year of doing that nerdy site, finally looked at like the our like iTunes reviews to see like has anybody actually reviewed the podcast, and we got a few, not too much out there. There was like one of our shows has like a few 5-star reviews, and then like somebody gave us a 1-star, and I'm like, all right, dick, whatever. And I was joking with
Yeah.
Cam. Unsurprisingly, given the numbers that the show did at the time, that Wannabe Film Class has probably our it was our most reviewed of the shows. So unfortunately, we ended that one. Oh well, including one. I feel bad because like there was one somebody kind of commented like, Thursdays are their favorite days and they look forward to that, and it was like right before the show started kind of sputtering out near the end. I was like, oh, poor person who made that review. But yeah, you can check out all that stuff, or you can join us over and support us on Patreon, patreon.com/thatnerdysite. Like I said earlier, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to our Patreon producers here now that we're in the month of February. Thank you to Pam Larson, Sherry Starkey, Teresa Wilkinson, and myself, Trevor Starkey. So yeah, let us kind of just dive in. We got a few topics to touch on today. We're going to talk. Cameron has some Sk8 Infinity love that he's been spending a lot of time with. Logan recently rewatched Knives Out after being inspired by our Hitman stream, going through the murder mystery in a very Knives Out inspired level. I've been playing through some of the Yakuza games as kind of like a first time, and then Logan and I will kind of wrap up with some general Hitman impressions, and Cameron also has a connection to that series. So that's kind of what the layout of the show is going to look like. Look down into the time codes if you want to skip to any of those sections. I'll include all that in there. But let's kick it off over to you, Cam, with some Sk8 Infinity. So you had Logan and I watch the intro for this before we started.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, that's the intro
Yeah,
to
that's the opening.
Oh.
the opening intro to Sk8 Infinity. Just to, I guess, like get our heads around what you've been spending some time with. So tell us about Sk8 Infinity and why
Okay.
it's been grabbing you.
Yeah. So I've gotten back into like I have not been playing a lot of video games lately. Admittedly, like like
13 Sentinels,
rushing through stuff.
you played that. It surprised you. It nearly won your game of the year, and you were like, I don't need to play anything.
This is it.
This was the pinnacle.
Like, nothing will beat 2020. 2021 is a no gamer year. I'm getting out of prison where all gamers should be going, and I like send the gamers to prison. That's an older joke. No, I've been just kind of like in an anime kick lately, and Sk8 Infinity is one that came out recently. I mean, it's no surprise it's the beginning of the winter season for anime. And 2020 was like a real drought as far as like good anime was concerned. Tons of bad ones, but I don't watch those. So
I definitely haven't watched My Hero
really...
Academia in a while, so that's the only one I watch. So just let me know when that one comes back, Cam, and I'm cool.
Yep. Yeah. So I have just been watching a couple different animes. Like there's been some really good stuff, but I would say that probably like the thing that has, I mean, shoot back a couple months, and I was talking about Jujutsu Kaisen and how much I fell in love with that. I've definitely fallen really deeply in love with Sk8 Infinity. It is an anime about Okinawan Okinawan skating. It like loosely, I should say. Like it is not an anime based entirely in realism.
Yeah,
it's one of the reasons why I had you guys watch the
image I pulled up that I have kind of here on the YouTube video is like them skating in space or something.
Yep, that doesn't happen, but no, that's just like a fun like visual for it. But in reality, it's like it's a story about two high school guys who one is from Okinawa and is a skateboarding enthusiast. He is part of a skating group, like subculture group, not necessarily like a team or anything, but rather like a kind of like underground skating, I don't want to say like society, but it is like a larger group of people. There's a lot of different cliques and like people and figureheads in the scene. I guess that's the best way to put it. It's an underground scene of skating in regards to, and it's specifically downhill skating on a course that's called S. Like that's what it's called, and you have to have like a badge to get into the area, and it's like not always open. It's usually locked down, and it's really cool. It is like in rural Okinawa. It's like a rural part of Okinawa, and it's interesting because Okinawa is a very like it is technically like it is part of Japan. It is a prefecture in Japan, but Okinawa was originally a different country, and so it has a lot of Western influence because the Okinawan military base is stationed there for the United States. That's like a massive military.
So that wasn't just a Karate Kid kind of thing.
No, it's not just a Karate Kid kind of thing. Okay. Legitimately, like saying, "Oh, there's a base right next to the small fishing town." That is a Karate Kid thing. The Okinawan military base is massive. It was the Battle of Okinawa is the last fight. Like that's the last battle that the United States fought against Japan in. And it was supposed to be the spearhead for the invasion of Japan before, because Russia was taking the peninsula north. We were going to come south, and we were going to meet in the middle. The same thing we did with Germany. That was the plan. But then we dropped nukes on them instead because we didn't want, because estimated we were like 1 million people were going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, hey, let's not do that.
Okay, well,
let's drop bombs instead.
Let's circle back to Sk8.
Yeah, anyway,
Sk8 Infinity.
Circle back to Sk8 Infinity. So Okinawa has like a really amazing culture there, where it's a very Western place. There's a lot of Western influence there from the military base, and like just kind of like the culture there in Okinawa. Then you have it's a bit more tropical than the rest of Japan. Like they have like palm trees there and stuff. So there like it is a there is a difference. And then, of course, there's the traditional Okinawan culture that is very different from Japanese culture as far as like practices go, and even some language stuff. Fun little thing. Both Titus and Yuna are based off of the Okinawan words for sun and moon. Fun little tidbit there.
There you go.
From Final Fantasy X. And in Final Fantasy X actually is greatly inspired by Okinawan culture.
As you're saying that, and I'm looking at this guy with like I'm gonna call it a Naruto headband because that's what I associate it with.
It's just a headband.
And the red hair. I'm like, oh, I kind of see like Waka in that. And yeah, so.
Yeah, no. By the way, just because somebody wears a headband in anime doesn't mean it's not just a headband, Trevor. It's not. It doesn't have to be a Naruto headband.
I associate it with Naruto because I associate it most notably with Greg Atlas from Up at Noon fame. Because he always wears it.
Yeah, that's a deep cut.
Yeah, he always
he recently
always
his recently broke, so he made a little post about like having to say goodbye to it, but fortunately he had like picked up a replacement a couple years ago, like ready for this day.
For this
moment.
moment.
That for years, man.
Oh yeah, I want to say this is now his like third one that he's on. I think is what his post said or something to that. But yeah.
Well, shout out to Greg Atlas, like that's a dude.
Mm-hmm.
Always first in line.
Yep.
Always first in line, and we'll always remember that quiet cosplay.
Yep.
Because you just can't forget it. Anyway, I digress.
When he was on the couch. Not to get too now. Yeah, we're getting into Greg Atlas stories. Never mind.
Yeah. The topic of this podcast is not Greg Atlas memories. No, so skate. So it's such a cool. Not a lot of anime or not a lot of anime take place in Okinawa. Okinawa can sometimes be like a destination that people take for the traditional beach episode from an anime.
Mm-hmm.
But Okinawa culture also has as you see from Karate Kid fame, is the birthplace of Hakusuru, which is a martial art that Miyagi-Do is based off of. I mentioned that a couple weeks ago when we talked about Cobra Kai and Karate Kid. So yeah, it's just it's a cool location, and so there's a lot of really cool stuff. But it's really about these two main characters who are high school kids. One is a half Japanese, half Canadian kid who has moved. His father passed away, so him and his mom have moved back to her hometown in Okinawa, and he was a serious snowboarder. And so he is really missing it, and so he connects with skateboarding. It's a very
So this is Johnny Tsunami. It's Johnny Tsunami the anime.
A little bit. Like there is some definite snow but in the reverse.
Go big,
right?
go home.
Except it's not surfing because Johnny Tsunami is about surfing, not skateboarding. Is there a parallels where they talk about board control between skating and snowboarding and how it's different and whatnot? Yeah. At one point, in order to, because Lagna's big fear of skating is falling off the board, and so to give him the self-confidence to stay on the board, at one point he duct tapes his skateboard to it, his feet to the board, which is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Just because you
seems like a great plan to me. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Reiki, who's the redhead, Lagna's the blue-haired kid, and he tells me, he goes, you're gonna want to bail if the trick if your run goes bad, and he just goes but I'm afraid of falling off the board, and it's all right, man, and so it's about there's just this fun dynamic between the two, and just how they kind of get caught up in. Just some shenanigans that ends up getting Lagna kind of put on a lot of serious competitors' radar. But I think notably, the big thing that I would say that's a selling point for the show is there is a juggalo character in this anime.
I don't know if I would ever consider that a selling point for anything, but okay.
It's pretty fantastic. Let me actually just go ahead and pull this up.
I'm not sure I know what a juggalo is.
It's a
insane clown posse.
That's one. Yeah, ICP fans.
Okay.
Like with like the
Did you not have ICP fans in Missouri?
No, I don't think we did.
another one.
At least not in the
Did
group
you
I
play
hung out
Grand
with.
Theft Auto 5? The story?
Yeah.
So like Trevor's friend, who wears like the white, black and white face paint. Like that's kind of the like
Okay.
That's a
prototypical Juggalo look.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Juggalos, absolute nut jobs. Generally nice people, like totally fine, like okay people, like just don't get them riled up.
Yeah.
When Juggalos get riled up, things go bad very quickly. But day to day, like I've known plenty of Juggalos, cool people, listen to weird music, but like like and like don't meme, like magnets. How do they work to them? It does not go over well.
Fair.
Uh,
I mean,
but yeah,
it's,
so like,
it's
I
like
would say,
now you're just
yeah.
describing me though, except for the Juggalo part. But yeah, so Sk8 Infinity. So is this like new? Is it like, or are
Yeah,
you
it's new.
coming to it
It's
as
only got
okay?
it's got four, like it had three. Its fourth episode's coming out this weekend.
Okay.
So it is new. I will say though that like, it's cool because outside of Reki and Lagna, there is everybody else kind of is a everybody else kind of has a like skating like pseudonym and personality that's different from their regular life.
Mm-hmm.
The opening I showed you guys has like some of that on display. Like you have like, I think the biggest one is Shadow who's the Juggalo character. He is like, he wears like heavy metal garb, the face paint, like will throw like firecrackers at people while he's racing against them, which is totally legal in the the S races that when it's a downhill race, it's a downhill run, and
It's basically
a kind of,
Tokyo
like,
Drift
dirt
is what it sounds like. It's Tokyo Drift, the end race of Tokyo Drift.
But
on skateboards.
Initial D, yeah, very very initial D Tokyo Drift vibe to it, and like anything goes while you're on the race, so it's cool. But yeah, no, Shadow is one of those characters where he's like this super crazy dude, and then it turns out that in his like regular life he owns a flower shop. He's a florist, and he's like he's this massive dude, but when he's working as a florist, he is just like this incredibly kind-hearted, sweet person. And then when he dons his garb and his makeup, he's a like absolute like dick bag, and it's great.
Sounds like it's got a little bit of like Persona vibes in terms of like they've got kind of their real kind of character, and then their Persona, avatar kind of
like
characters.
their secret identities, like Joker versus the main character, Queen versus Makoto and whatnot.
Yeah.
Very much similar to that.
Or even on that example, I'm thinking Persona 4 and Kanji in particular, but
yeah, no, it's interesting because you get to see interactions that are just like fun. But like the thing about this race, the S race, is people bet on it, of course, but betting with money is not really the thing that they're interested in. It's usually betting with giving up something. And in
say
one
pink
case,
slips.
worse. So like Lagna has to race Shadow at the end of episode 1, and the reason why is he's trying to deliver a skateboard. So he gets a job at a skate shop. Reki and Lagna both work at a skate shop, and they're supposed to make a delivery. But Reki accidentally mistakes the board he's supposed to be delivering to somebody with something that has one of his older boards in it. So his and the skate deck is just like torn up and trashed. And so the guy refuses to race, but he would automatically lose. And the bet is Shadow bet him that if Shadow won the race, the guy's girlfriend would have to get a tattoo of Shadow's face on her face.
That seems inappropriate for like him to be making that bet.
Very much so. But like that's the kind of thing that's like, this guy Shadow is just like an absolute dickbag, but in his real life he's this enormously sweet human being, and so it's like it's just funny seeing the dichotomy between these characters in their daily lives and then their skater personalities. And then you incorporate that with like these like the budding bonds of friendship between Reki and Lagna and what they're doing, and Lagna really coming into his own as a skater, and like really figuring and like creating his own skating style in regards to that like he's able to like the one-to-one transfer that like you would think would take place doesn't actually take place. Like Lagna's able to do some cool stuff that's usually based off of snowboarding, as far as like some tricks that he pulls off and whatnot are snowboard tricks. They're not skating tricks. So he has like a unique style in regards to that, and he's just like, it's just fun. It's fun. It's wacky. It's super silly at times, but then it gets like really heartfelt and serious at other moments.
And it reminds you of your hoodlum past.
It does that not at all.
I mean, it sounds like my understanding of skate culture is it led you down a bad path, and it led this florist guy down a bad path.
I don't know. I think the florist is living his best life, man.
When he's a dickbag.
I digress.
When he's a dickbag, betting his partner's face.
Face.
Oh no! He's not the one betting the partner's face. The guy he was racing against bet his partner's face.
Oh, okay.
Shadow bet the guy that if Shadow beat him, the guy's girlfriend had to get an image of Shadow put on her face.
Oh, okay. I mean, still bad, but
yeah. No, like he's not a great guy, but like you know.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's a hoodlum. You were a hoodlum. Skate culture bad.
Damn.
That's a bad take, Trevor. That's a bad take.
I mean, that's
Trevor out here just boom, smacking on the gavel on that one. He's done.
That's
You fell off a skateboard when you were 5, and you've been traumatized by skating ever since.
pretty much, yeah, exactly. I don't shy away from that. And it was a pink skateboard with like a Firebird on it, and it is ingrained in my mind.
Get it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our Patreon exclusive episode literally brought out trauma in Trevor.
It was a
that he has never expressed before.
It was a gift from a girl named Heather Kennedy, who was one of the first people I ever met in school, because she lived like right around the corner, and we went to the same bus stop. So I met her like on my first day of school, and we were like friends all through high school. So yeah.
Gosh, you have these.
I wish I had a pink
and she gave you a present that hurt you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Firebird.
Man.
Scarred me.
Damn.
Well, that's some Sk8 Infinity.
So anyway, I digress. Yeah, Sk8 Infinity is great. I will say that like the last thing I'll say is, it looks like the big bad is he's like a local politician, but his my favorite thing about him is that his personality, his alternate personality that he takes on, is like this Matador-esque supervillain persona that he takes on. But the best thing is his skateboard has bull horns on the front.
Cool.
It's crazy. It's wild. It's awesome. I'm super into it. It's an anime that I'm really, really attached myself to, and it combines a lot of like fun, like just fun, cool sports anime stuff with something that, it's surprising there's not really been skate anime before. So it's cool to see this take on skating culture, and the characters are wonderful, and there's a large number of them, and it's great.
Cool. Well, let's throw it over to you, Logan, because you recently rewatched Knives Out, inspired by our
last night
our Hitman kind of playthrough. Before we hop into that, Cam, have you watched Knives Out? Are you familiar with the movie?
Yeah,
okay,
I have.
Cool. So we can talk full spoilers of Knives Out. It's been out for a while. If you haven't watched it, skip this part of the show. You can watch it on Amazon Prime, I believe, is where that one streams. But yeah. So let's talk about some Knives Out. There, Logan. You notoriously, when we were talking about it on Hitman, you did not like Knives Out. It didn't resonate with you. But you basically texted me last night or DM'd me last night and were like, I was wrong. I will admit I was wrong about Knives Out. So I was like, well, do you want to come on the podcast tomorrow and admit that? Ha. Welcome to your wrongness. I hope you're enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I infamously, as Trevor said, did not particularly love Knives Out. I didn't hate it. I would have very much given it like a 7 when I first watched it. I was like, this is fine, this is good.
Yeah, I think this all kind of stemmed from the
always-
fact that like Ben gave it a 10 out of 10 on that nerdy site, and you were like, I would never have given it a 10. And I was like, well,
and,
What?
and
That
I
movie's
just-
so
you didn't
good.
review it,
And-
so yeah.
and the acclaim it got in general, right? Like it was very well, like I think, critically acclaimed film. And I had said at the time, and still think is true to a degree, although significantly less so, that like the first act I thought was like really, really like fantastic and special and great, and then after kind of the murder happens, where like it shows you what happens, from like that point on, I thought the movie kind of lost a little bit. And yeah, I didn't like the fact that like the big twist was the fact that there isn't really a big twist. That like that's just the murder. To kind of really boil it down really simply. Watching it again yesterday though, which to her credit was like I think the 4th or 5th time Shravya has seen it. She loves the movie. She's always been like she saw it with her family and then like came back and saw it with me like 2 days later, like when it first came out. Like she has always raved about it, has always praised it, and I've always been like, it's good.
I got to see it pre-release with
nice.
I saw it when I was in San Francisco at the end of 2019. Joey and Yusuf and Belinda, like we were all there.
Oh, nice.
Saw it together. Like it was basically like they invited me to the pre-release screening. It wasn't a press screening or anything like that. It was just like a couple weeks before it came out at a theater out there, and like since it just timed out with when I was there that week. They were like, I think there's still tickets. Like we didn't sit all together at all. Like I was sitting like front row or whatever for it, but we got to see it and hung out and chat. I think we went and saw it, and then I think we went and did grab Square Guys Pizza afterwards. And yeah, I really enjoyed it at the time, and then so much so that like when I went and saw it again a couple weeks later, I was like, still holds up, even though I know now all the secrets and stuff, because it's such a character focused piece.
I think for me, watching it again now, when I watched it last night when we were recording this, it's just a really great movie. I think as someone who has always wanted to like Rian Johnson, I feel like so much, but has never loved his movies really, and have not seen really any of his TV work. This is the one that watching again is like, it's just a well constructed story, right? And like all those small things. And I think weirdly enough, knowing the twist helped this movie so much for me. This I think is a movie that very much benefits from a second watch. Where like not having that built-in expectation of a lifetime of like, all right, cool, and then we're going to get to the big reveal twist at the end and like, this is what happened kind of thing. And knowing like, no, this is it. Just enjoy it and like see how they kind of piece together everything else. I think it really benefited the movie. I think that as he got a lot of praise for at the time, Daniel Craig is great. Like Benoit Blanc is a great character. I would easily get a like series of films with him. And I think, and this is something I said at the time, but like even more true now, it's like I just enjoy Daniel Craig enjoying what he's doing, right? Because like as they've beaten the dead horse on for so long,
into
like
Bond so long, yeah.
he so clearly doesn't enjoy that role anymore, and it's like so refreshing to be like, oh, he's just having a fucking blast right here. Like he's so obviously just like having the time of his life doing this role. Like, he like chews up every scene he's in. I like had the thought in head too of like,
have you seen Logan Lucky?
Yeah, I was about to ask. if you've
again,
seen Logan
in a
Lucky
very
yet.
similar vein to
He's
that, right?
so
Like
good.
this to me also smacks of like, I'm a little surprised he didn't get like a Best Supporting Actor nom, because that's like the kind of role that it would get, like Marissa Tomei and like My Cousin Vinny, like those kind of like more goofy, just like scene stealing moments. But he's great, yeah, and the entire cast, which is stacked from head to toe, absolutely delivers. It's just such a refreshingly like joyous movie, right? I think it has its tongue planted firmly in its cheek. I think it never takes itself too seriously, but still can have such awesome moments of like heart and kind of like really piercing insights into like the different levels of class and the different stratas of like American society at large. Like, it's such a smart film, and I think get into the final twist and everything involved in that, and that whole model. It is basically just Daniel Craig on stage giving a monologue for like 10 minutes at the end of the movie about a donut hole with a hole inside the donut hole. But it's incredible. It's like he just absolutely nails it.
The donut had no hole at all.
Yeah, like the final gag of like Chris Evans grabbing the knife, and it's like the prop knife, which I had referenced earlier. Like, I think so often movies can either not quite deliver when you watch them again, or like if they're really great and really special, I've always said, like, I think you draw so much more out of them almost the second time you watch it. And this is a movie to me where you draw so much more out of it the second time you watch, right? Like, I think knowing that twist, you get to savor every beat along the path. Like, you know, again, spoiler, like Chris Evans and who he is. And like, it was funny watching it again, like how late into the movie he makes an appearance, even more so after you had shared the story in Hitman 3, but like how your guy from the Agatha Christie play also came in hella late and was also the killer, and it's like, it's such a nice little like connection there. Like, it's just so smartly acted. I think it's so clever. I think it was a blast. Would I give it a 10 out of 10 still? Probably not, but like I definitely would have like no conjunction to being like this movie's an 8.5 to 9 out of 10. It is a smartly crafted, I think, mystery, and even more so, Trevor hasn't seen this, so I can't spoil this, but like even more so, like, I just love what it does with Agatha Christie's arguably most famous story, which is Murder on the Orient Express, and that own story's like big iconic twist, and kind of the resonance that the two of them have there. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it's.
You haven't seen any iteration of Murder on the Orient Express?
Nope. I mean, well, like, I
there's a Kenneth Branagh one. It's great.
The closest
one is
I would say I have is the Doctor Who episode that's clearly like drawing from it and inspired by it. Because that's that's the one with like the mummy, like the wartime mummy creature or something like that. Like if I recall that correctly, I want to say it's a Matt Smith episode, I think. And it's like they're on the Interstellar Orient Express or whatever. And there's of course the David Tennant Agatha Christie episode. No, I've never actually seen it in.
You should watch it. I would absolutely sit down in a heartbeat with you and do like a postmortem on that afterwards.
It's one of those like part of it was like the cast is a very hit or miss of people like I like and don't like in a lot of things. Like in particular,
Trevor,
like Johnny Depp and Josh Gad. I'm like, I really like you in some things, but it's such a crapshoot. I don't really know if I want to take the risk.
Trevor, hear me out.
Yeah.
You get to see Johnny Depp get murdered.
I mean, okay.
And in a way,
that's right.
It's like penance for the last couple of Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Sure, but they're still keeping him in that
Very
franchise. Whereas they did pull him from Fantastic Beasts, so maybe that franchise will get better
It's
again.
because Disney doesn't care. Disney doesn't care. Warner Brothers does. That's the day.
I'll sell it to you like this: Leslie Odom Jr.'s in it, and he's wonderful.
There you go.
That is true.
One of the things I was going to touch on that you kind of alluded to, one of the things I love about Knives Out, especially like a second watch, is you can really appreciate that like so many things like the prop knife moment that you kind of touched on, like are planted, the seeds are planted, and they you get to see kind of them come to fruition. And there's just like, I think like every little thing that is set up has a great payoff like that. Like I remember even the first time around, I remember like when he's like grabbing the knife, I immediately thought back to that line of like Rumor or is it Rumor? Is that his name? Yeah. It was like he wouldn't Ransom. There it is. Yeah. He wouldn't know
Ransom.
I'm thinking Rumor Willis, I guess. It was like he wouldn't know a prop from a real knife, if it stabbed him or whatever. And like immediately that's coming back into my mind. So like when he stabs it into her, I'm like, I know exactly that prop knife. I have played around with that type of prop knife where it just kind of like sticks. It just kind of like pops back in. So many times I was like, I love that payoff of that beat and kind of that final moment. Yeah.
I will say, the one thing I always go back to about that film is I am always shocked by how graphic
The vomit is.
the older man's.
Oh, no, the
no,
death.
the
Okay,
death.
yeah.
Oh, sure,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah, his death, like the quote unquote murder of that character, is quick but brutal
Yeah.
and just very distressing.
Yeah.
You're right there. You're right there in that moment with the characters in that room, and it's just like it's a horrible thing, but man, is it effective, and man, is Christopher Plummer so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things for me too that all of the best murder mysteries and kind of mystery stories have, and this is what I think Monk did so well, is that they're all just, at least to me, the best ones are all kind of inherently sad. Like there's just kind of a sadness around it, and that seems really easy to like be obvious, like, oh well, they're all about death, but like more than that, like there's just a sense of like kind of sadness about the whole thing, and like Knives Out carries that through it. Obviously, the fact that like Christian Plummer would have been fine, like he would not have died. Like his death was in some ways kind of a needless, pointless death, but for his basically his grandson's kind of ambition and greed. And then just kind of the way that family falls apart, and then like the final exchange between her and Daniel Craig's character, it's like, you know, what should I do? And him just being like, I have my answers, but I feel like you're just gonna follow your heart, kind of thing, and like do what you're gonna do, one way or the other, right? And I think Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh, she's up on the when she's up on the balcony,
on the
and she
drinking
just takes...
my house, as the mug, and like I think Murder on the Orient Express also is super fucking sad. And I think Monk just has, for very obvious reasons, just this kind of tragedy and air of kind of sadness to it. And Knives Out somehow manages to balance that so well with like really funny moments, again, like Monk. And I think that just kind of elevates it that much further as well. The chemistry I can't get over enough. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when everyone is being interviewed for the first time, in kind of the grand room that they're in, and it just starts doing like quick cuts back and forth once Benoit Blanc starts interviewing everyone, and you have Linda, who is Jamie Lee Curtis' character, being like, you're not gonna provoke me, you think I'm an idiot, and then every other character gets provoked, and it's just like spilling out secrets like left right, and it gets to like a perfect crescendo when they talk about like the Nazi grandkid, and it's just amazing. You have Don John's character being like, he's an actual fucking Nazi, and like the other like granddaughter being like, he's like a far like right troll, and like it's just such a great thing. And
he's a conservative, like he's actively a conservative, like his parents are just like enabling this. I think my favorite one though is when Benoit Blanc references him masturbating, like the
I was going to say that's what I was going to reference, that line at the end of the movie where he's like, the Nazi child masturbating in the bathroom, whoever, and it's like such a like throwaway line, but it's delivered so well. Like there are just so many small gags and small moments, and like it's so good. And like I've heard, like obviously as I'm sure we all have, like the rumors of like maybe they'll do a sequel with Daniel Craig in, but like it's so good. It's so
I hope so. I
well crafted. And I'm so curious to see what a sequel to that would look like. But yeah, it is so funny, and it is such a tightly crafted story.
I want to pull this tweet that I saw making the viral rounds a couple days ago. There was basically somebody on the backs of all the GameStop stock stuff and Wall Street Bet stuff this week. Somebody tweeted out, this whole thing makes it abundantly clear that the capitalist class recognizes itself as a class with common interests and goals and will form like Voltron to stop working people from doing the same thing. And somebody quote tweeted that and said, remember how a big part of Knives Out was that the rich family all had different political beliefs, from leftists to all right, but they all formed a united front once they realized that a working class girl was going to get money they thought belonged to them. And I was like, yep, that was Knives Out. Yeah,
And then they tortuously pressure the only character who like you would have any sympathy left for, and like her, like the pressure from her family, so that she'll give up the granddaughter, so that she'll give up Ana de Armas' character. Like I loved the interactions that those two gals had together, and I'm like, oh, okay, okay, like she is a decent one, but when it just shows when push comes to shove, when the cards are down, she doesn't have trust in this person. She falls back to her family instead. And that's her great. It's such a good commentary on allyship. And there's so many layers to Knives Out within class, between class, race, politics, and all this stuff. Like, it makes a very good, clear point. The young boy is a fucking fascist hog of a child who and everybody kind of does whatever, but that's how these people are made. They're made by people ignoring the clear signs of growing, budding hatred and all that other problems, and using humor to hide hate is a very basic practice of the alt-right. And so just seeing that exemplified there, and
Schrodinger's joke. You tweet something out, and depending on the response, you say I was joking or not.
Yeah. It's Knives Out is just such a great commentary on that. But I really think that I was trying to look up the character's name. Agatha Christie. Just one second. Agatha Christie.
Hercule Poirot. Yeah, we talked about him on the Hitman stream.
Yeah. Hercule Poirot. I really think Benoit Blanc can be a new. I tweeted this out after I saw Knives Out.
I would love it.
Benoit Blanc can 100% be the American Hercule
CSI
Poirot.
KFC.
Just perfect, just absolutely perfect character to insert into these murder mysteries, because he's a special agent, being pulled up from Louisiana to come deal with it's such a good pull for something like this, and it's just fantastic. And not having any connection to, I freaking love this movie, man. It's so fucking good. And it works on so many layers and levels. And Rian Johnson, I just think, he does films like this so incredibly well. Whether it's this, it's Brick, it's even Looper in a way. Looper has its issues, but even Looper, it plays off of this.
Yeah, it's great.
Balancing the tone of immense, in Looper, it's immense dystopian societal sorrow balanced with humor and fun. And in Knives Out, it's the tragic murder of this patriarch, and balancing it with the humor of his kids are terrible. His kids are absolute shitbags. And his grandkids are shitbags too, it turns out. And it just plays so well off of this this balance between, we're laughing at these people for being shitty, but they're people like them exist in real life.
Did you lose Cameron too, Logan?
Yep.
Yep. So we lost Cameron. He's frozen. Hopefully he's
But Knives Out's great.
Yeah. Yeah, Knives Out, ton of fun.
Knives Out's a ton of fun. I mean, it's.
I'm glad you came around on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much has made in that thing that Hitman already put me in of just I just want to watch more murder mysteries. I might watch Murder in the Orient Express again as well, because I think that'll be another one that will benefit a lot from watching it a second time, because I had only ever seen it the one time when I watched it a year ago, so I'm excited to see that again. The Kenneth Branagh version is super good, I think. I mean, also, again, admittedly, as me and Trevor have said on numerous podcasts, we like Kenneth Branagh. So, but yeah, I'm excited to just kind of dive into more murder mystery stories. Maybe I'll watch Monk as well, or Psych, for a very kind of tonal change of pace. But yeah, it was great. I'm excited to enjoy it as well. And I'm excited just to see Daniel Craig happy. Give me more happy Daniel Craig movies. They're very good.
Yeah.
That's
ton of fun.
shit.
And yeah, I mean, I echo a lot of the sentiment that's already been shared of I would love to see Benoit Blanc kind of become a recurring character. We're sort of welcoming
can you guys hear
Cam
me?
back. I can hear you, Cam. I can't see you yet. There we are. Okay, now I see you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. my internet crashed for a second.
It was a very
Where did I leave off?
I don't know. It was a very beautiful
Yeah.
freeze though.
That's right.
We just kind of we kind of wrapped up on Knives Out while you were frozen
Knives Out,
and
okay.
we were waiting to get you back in.
Okay. Last thing I'll say about it before we move on totally is I would like to see Ana de Armas and Chris Evans do more work together.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Like their rapport throughout the entire film, like when they're like buddy together during that part, especially when they're in the blue Subaru. Like the get down moment is so great. Like there's a lot of like really wonderful interactions between the two, and they're just absolutely charming together.
Mm-hmm.
And Ana de Armas recently left Ben Affleck, which good.
I found that out through Belinda Garcia.
Well, Anna is a queen and she deserves a king. Not a Boston.
Like I feel like we can all shit on Ben Affleck less. Like that guy seems to be going through a lot of stuff and doesn't need.
I've never hated Ben Affleck. I've always been like, Ben Affleck's cool.
But like
Fine.
he gets memed to all hell these days.
Yeah.
I'm just like when is a society are we like, oh hey, like bullying sucks unless we're making fun of Ben Affleck? It's like
Or Guy Fieri. What did Guy Fieri ever do?
maybe
either?
calm
As
down,
an
yeah.
aside.
All right. Fair enough. I will say if it turns out she left him for Chris Evans, whew, awesome. Probably not though. And good for her. Good for you, Queen. Go off, live your best life.
Trevor, what have you
I
been
just wanted
watching
to
or
give a shout out
playing?
to like those.
So yeah, I have been I'm now tempted and I've been looking at it the last couple times I've like logged into Amazon, been like maybe I'm due for a rewatch of Knives Out. But I have not
You should.
I have not rewatched that recently. I have spent a good chunk of my January playing through some of the Yakuza games. This was one of those like it was it's a series I've never really paid too much attention to, but like it kind of popped up on my radar last year when Britt Brombacher, blonde nerd from What's Good Games, really got obsessed with the series. Like after like in quarantine, basically that became like her franchise, and she just went all in on it. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I was looking for something to play here in 2021. While we wait on the new games, like January of 2020 is when I finally got around and finished The Witcher 3. So I was like, it's a good time to just hop into a franchise I either haven't spent time with or I haven't spent enough time with, and like not only are like I probably could have just done it on Game Pass, but like a whole bunch of the Yakuza games were on sale on PlayStation. And I was like, well, I'll get them trophies at least. So I've played through Yakuza Kiwami 1 and 2, and I'm about a third of the way through Yakuza 0 at this point. And a lot of this is like in part because I really want to play Like a Dragon, but I want to know like what's going on, even though Like a Dragon seems to be like more or less a reboot, different character and all that stuff, and completely different gameplay style. But yeah, so I'm playing through the Yakuza games, and there's a lot of nonsense in them that I don't like, but then like I will find myself just completely obsessed and trying to like do all of like the pocket circuit
Your
racing
tweets
and
have been
stuff
really
like
funny
that.
that you've been sending me. Yeah, your DMs. Yeah.
Like in Yakuza Kiwami 2 in particular, I got like really obsessed with the Grand Prix Cabaret like mini game series which is basically like a diner dash kind of game where you're managing the hostess club and you're going around to the different tables and helping out the girls and all that stuff and leveling them up and and so yeah, like there's like pretty much so far, and right now in Yakuza 0, I'm getting really into the whole property management like mini game that just opened up for me. And so it's like interesting that like the story, I'm like, okay, I'm surprised at how little Kiryu is in the Yakuza across these 3 games so far, because he's basically like in the Yakuza in the Tojo clan for like the beginning of the first game. And that's it. And then like the second game, he's completely out. In Yakuza 0, which is a prequel, he's in, but then he immediately gets like expelled or he leaves the family like pretty early on. So it's like he has been a Yakuza person for maybe 5 hours total in the 3 games I've played so far. And I'm like, I would have expected him to be in the Yakuza more. Majima is a fun, like, weird side character that kind of continues to come up in the series. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a series that, especially now 3 games in back to back to back, I'm definitely finding myself just kind of skipping through a lot of like the lesser story dialogue. Like I pay attention to the cutscenes that are like animated and stuff, but like if it's 2 characters at the bar just talking, I'm just kind of like, okay, let's get back to the gameplay. Just skip. So I'm less invested in the story. In a micro level, certainly, and a lot of like the side sub stories and stuff, I just kind of like skip through at this point. I'm just like, okay, just tell me like what is the objective, which screws me over some of the times because some of the times it'll be like, okay, I have to it's go to a place and they told me the details of the person I'm looking for, and it'll be like, here are 3 different people to talk to, and if you talk to the wrong one, you have to pay them a whole bunch of money or something like that. I'm like, well, crap, I should have paid attention to some of the details. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting series. I don't know how much longer, especially as other games are coming out now that I'm gonna start wanting to dive into. If I'll keep sticking with like playing through the games in the franchise proper, or if I'll just be like, okay, like I've got enough of Kiryu's story that I can kind of just skip to Like a Dragon and see, what that JRPG gameplay is like with all these, silly, extravagant things. But it's fun. Going from Kiwami 1 to Kiwami 2 and then to 0, 0 plays so much more like Kiwami 1 that it's jarring compared to Kiwami 2, because I actually preferred like the gameplay of Kiwami 2, I think, which I think is different from you, Logan, because you really I remember didn't like that. And for me it's like the switching between all the different combat systems. I'm just like, I would much rather just like prefer the beat 'em up styles of Kiwami 2 that is a much more like simplistic stuff, especially because what I'm getting more frustrated in Yakuza 0 now is how slow it is to transition between fighting styles. Like, I want it to be an immediate thing. I push the different directional pad, and now I'm in the rush mode, or now I'm in the beast mode, or whatever. And I basically have to, like, recover, have, like, a second of, like, enemies not attacking me, and be, like, mashing the button before it actually switches to one of the different modes. And so that's my like, irksome complaint on the combat side of things in Yakuza 0. But yeah, it's definitely a weird, eclectic kind of game, and it's like, I'm very glad they remade the first couple, especially in the Kiwami form, because it would have been impossible to go back to those games like on a PS2, and there's still enough like design elements of them that feel like PS2 games that I was like, just got to push through these kinds of things, and some of that is in the combat gameplay, like. What's annoying me right now in Yakuza 0 is the level up system, whereas like in the other games it was like you got experience points from fighting and all that stuff, and in Yakuza 0 it's like you have to really invest in yourself, and you get a shit ton of money from combat and stuff, but like you're using the money to buy things and also buy abilities and stuff. And now that the like property management stuff has opened up, I'm getting way more money than I was. So maybe that'll like alleviate some of this stuff. But like for the first 5 chapters of the game, I was like, I don't want to spend all of my money just trying to get like new abilities or new health on these characters, because it goes from like the tiers of abilities. It's like 400,000 yen for like, the base level abilities, then it jumps up to 2 million yen, and then 30 million yen for like the next tier. And I basically unlocked all the 2 million yen. I was like, I have 100 million yen. I don't want to use that to unlock 3 abilities and then have like no money. So like I was thinking about it the other day, like as I was playing, I was like, this kind of leveling is one of those things that's a mechanical pet peeve that will turn me off on a game so quickly. And the other big thing that jumps out to me is like Final Fantasy VIII, in that I hate the junction and draw system of Final Fantasy VIII because it disincentivizes certain aspects of the game. And so I'm having the same kind of vibes here in Yakuza 0, where it's like I don't like the leveling of this because it disincentivizes like basically I'm a hoarder for like items and stuff in those kinds of games, and so it becomes frustrating. I also don't like the item management in these games, where Yakuza Kiwami 2, like, it opened up and I could have like, I could have up to 10 items of each item type in my inventory. And now back in Yakuza 0, I'm like locked back down to like, you can have 20 items total and then everything goes to your item box. And that's a frustrating, like, hassle kind of stuff there. So yeah, it's interesting. I also, like, spoilers for Yakuza Kiwami 1, for the rest of the franchise. Going into 2 was tough because I was like, well, all the characters I really liked don't make it out of the first game. So, like,
No.
outside of Kiryu and Haruka, I guess, the little girl, she was cute, but then like she immediately gets like sidelined for the story of Kiwami 2, and I was like, that's frustrating. Like, so going back into 0 now, it's interesting because like some of the characters I liked are, popping back up in the game. But yeah, it's from like a long-term storytelling, I wish like a few more characters had like made it out of that game so that I had a little bit more investment across the franchise, as opposed to just being like, well, okay, now I'm just going to have to get invested in a whole new batch of people each game. And so yeah, that's kind of some top level Yakuza impressions so far.
Yeah,
I
it's
look
one
back
for
on
me. I mean, you bring
Yakuza-
up a good.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you bring up a good point for me that when I first played Yakuza Kiwami, because that was the first Yakuza game I'd really like played all the way through. And I wrote this in my review back at IP, that this felt like such a great standalone game. And in particular, like how that game wraps up its story was like, oh, this could just very easily be a standalone game with no sequels. Like, it's, again, they kill off 80% of the cast for starters. Like, it's basically like it ends and it's like him and like his like newfound fame just like goes off and then like lives happily ever after kind of thing, basically. And like he becomes the Tojo clan chairman for like a day to like make a bunch of rule changes, and then is like, I'm out, guys, peace out. And it's like, it literally is like, it's him, it's his new, basically, like, quasi daughter, and like the police captain guy are like the only three guys that were like that are important that make it out alive, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And it's such a cool story. I think it's such an awesome told story, that first game all the way through. And then you get there and it's like, cool, like this is such an awesome definitive ending for this point. And then you get to 2 and it's like, well, we can't really have him have a little 9-year-old girl around for the entire game again. Because why would he do that?
And now he doesn't
like,
have anybody to watch him because all those people died in the first game.
Yeah, and so like, let's just go send her to like this orphanage basically to like hang out for like
just to go back to the orphanage that she grew up in. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're just gonna have him do a mission, right? And then I think for me that was one of the weak. Like, realistically, Yakuza is such a weird series because it was never supposed to be this big in a lot of ways. Like, it is like a B-level series that, like, through sheer happenstance and like total random luck, became really big in the last like 3 years, basically. But it was never meant to be like a big video game series like it is now. Like, it was just like, and I think you see that in like a lot of the decisions they took. Like, I would argue out of Yakuza 1 through 6, so not counting Like a Dragon and not counting 0 because that's like a prequel and a different thing. Like, out of those 6 games, 2.5 are like great, probably. And so it's like, in particular, like I think 2, 3, and 4 are pretty weak entries. And so there's a lot of like not great you have to get to before you get to like 5, where it's like goodish again, and then 6 is a really standout kind of finale for like that arc. And so it's a series where like it's got a really great beginning and a really great end, and then like everything between that, which in this case is like 4 games, is like varying degrees of bad to goodish. And like I think that's part of its problem as well, especially when you try to play through all of them again in rapid succession, like you are doing right now, where it's like, oh, this has some peaks and valleys. And so, like, that's part of the problem. Like, I don't think, again, like, I would have loved to have been in the meeting rooms when they were making the first game, because, like, certainly playing it when I played it in 2017, which I think is when Yakuza Kiwami came out, it very much had the feel of like they did not think they were going to get a sequel necessarily. Because if they had, like you said, they wouldn't have killed everyone. Because Trevor is not joking when he says, like, basically everyone fucking dies in that game. Like, it is, like, a shockingly high death toll. And so, like, you get to the end of it and it's like, cool, we've done it. And then, like, I think the other games don't really know how to kind of, like, deal with that, and their way to deal with it, like, let's just kind of push the girl away for, like, a little bit so we can kind of try to, like, bring up a new cast of characters again. I'm like, Majima's funny, but even in, like, Yakuza Kiwami 1, he's in that game more than he was in the original one. Like, they added more scenes with him because, like, over time he became more of a, like, cult figure within the series. So, like, in Yakuza Kiwami 1, he's got way more screen time, and so, like, that's a thing, too, of, like, even that character wasn't in it as much originally. Like, I don't know. It's a weird series for sure. I will agree with. Like, it was never supposed to be this big and this popular.
Yeah, it's especially weird in Yakuza 0. Sorry, Cam, real quick. Just like
no, it's good.
Yakuza 0 being like a two-hander where like half of the game you're playing is Kiryu and the other half of the game you're playing is Majima, where it's like, okay, yeah, clearly, like, because that in the chronology of the games, that one came out after 5, I believe. Like, it went 1 through 5, and then
it came out after 6.
I think when I was looking it up, I think it came out after 5, like between 5 and 6.
I'm pretty sure.
It came out after 5. Sure, yeah, it was before 6. Because 6
was it before Song of Life?
Yeah, because that came out because that came out after Yakuza Kiwami 1 did, and Yakuza 0 came out right around the same time as Yakuza Kiwami.
Anyway, it definitely is like
we can't all check our phones on a podcast. Yes.
Yeah, that they very much kind of made him like, you know, a comparable character, and so now we're diving into his backstory and seeing his kind of origins in this. So that's interesting, but yeah, it would, like, I'm trying to think of a fun comparison, like what that would be like. It would be like, you know, taking your Barney Stinson type character from How I Met Your Mother and being like, okay, let's go devote a whole TV show to his origin story or something like that.
Yakuza 0 did come out after 6.
Okay.
It came out in 2017, and then Yakuza 6 came out in 2016. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Oh, interesting. So in the U.S., it did that. In Japan,
that's what I thought. Yeah.
0 came out before 6. Okay, that's why I was confused.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, go ahead and give us your Yakuza impressions.
Yeah. I love Yakuza, but I will say that I don't think it's just luck and happenstance that Yakuza became big. Originally, Yakuza was just like Yakuza came out, it was, in my opinion, the swan song of the PS2. Other consoles had launched, the PS3 hadn't launched yet. And it was like it was the final tentpole game for that console. It was still like, people were stoked for it, and it ended up coming out, and people were like,
I would say God of War 2 was more the final tentpole game for the PS2.
But Yakuza came out after God of War 2.
Did it? Because God of War 2 came out after the PS3 was already out.
I think maybe, actually, now that I think about it, I think maybe Yakuza came out while the PS3 was out. I digress. The point is that it was like one of the final... Yeah, it's one of the final big games of the PS2 era, and it had like really a lot of effort put behind localizing it. They really wanted to push it here, and in that effort they kind of failed, but it did take on kind of this cult following, and because and I think that what it comes down to, it's not just luck, and the reason why that's more relevant today is because the idea of good-hearted, for lack of a better term, for a good-hearted himbo doing his best for other people, and, like, you know, maybe he's a tough and rough guy, but he's got, like, this golden heart. Like, that was way less popular in the 2000s than it is today.
Yeah,
so I think in the last couple of years,
that is definitely something that stood out. Is how like ahead of his time Kiryu seems as a
Yeah.
character. Especially like
Yeah.
seeing just some of the side stories and just how like progressive he is, like to complete, especially taken in the context of he spent like from between 95 and 2005 in prison and just kind of like out of society or whatever. um like him coming back and just being completely open to the different like cultures and people that he's encountering across those games,
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, like I mean, it's something that I know Kiwami 2 was a you had issues with it, Logan, in terms of like how it's some of its representation portrayals and stuff, but like going into it like with that in the back of my mind, like seeing Kiryu talk to cross-dressing characters in the game or something and being like completely open and accepting of them, while the game is probably making a little bit more fun of things, and like in particular in Yakuza 0 just got introduced to the was it the like the five billionaires or whatever. One of them is named like the when they're introduced, it's like effeminate man, and it's a very clearly like a female type character, but a man. And I don't know enough to know if they're like trying to be transgender or whatever, but it's like it's very clearly trying to like play on stereotypes and jokes and stuff. But like Kiryu
Oh,
himself as a character does not like respond in a typical negative fashion towards those kinds of things, and I thought that was kind of not necessarily profound, but I was like pleasantly surprised to see that kind of portrayal,
yeah.
especially from like like a Japanese excuse me game like this, which like I immediately on the flip side think of like all the troubles that the Persona games have had, and Atlas in general has had on a lot of kind of their portrayals of some of those more
Yeah.
sensitive topics. The fact that this game was tackling some of these things, as far back as 2005, 2006. And I don't know how much of that got like, revised and updated in the Kiwami ports, remakes. Like, so it might have been worse, in the original
Right.
portrayals and stuff, but at least in
I
these
don't. I don't.
portrayals, I think like he's a good dude, and he's just trying to help out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that just resonates much stronger today than it did back then. Where like just the rise of and need of just like basic human decency. And Kiryu is just like a great example of that. But I think like, and especially but speaking about that is, it's also important to note that like gay culture and cross-dressing culture, often called Okama culture in Japan, is very different than Western culture representation of it, and like of the same subject matter. So, and oftentimes in translations and stuff, it just like it like decisions get made in localization and other problems. Persona 5 notwithstanding, like they're like I believe if in the original Japanese of Persona 5, it was more in line, like what they were saying was more in line with like what we ended up getting in Persona 5 Royale versus what originally we got in Persona 5. But like Okama culture is a like very like there's still problems with it for sure. Their representation, how they're portrayed, characters like straight male characters' reaction to them is probably like the most egregious example of this.
Mm-hmm.
Where like you have like really good representation of them, but then you have another character like a great example is one of the like the most powerful characters in the anime and manga One Piece uh, is a trans person, and like it's very Rocky Horror Picture Show inspired character, and you're like, oh wow, this is like a really cool character, like doing this representation, and then later, one of the characters, a straight male character, ends up on an island full of trans people, of trans women, and freaks out about it, makes a big deal about it, and it's played up for comedy, and it's like that's such a weird contrast and juxtaposition of it, but so things get weird and complicated in Japan when it comes to this sort of that part of culture, and I'm not saying that's okay. I would prefer it to be much more progressive. as a member of the Alphabet Mafia, like that is a preference of mine. But I would say that uh, Kiryu being like that is like very much like what you expect, and we need more characters like Kiryu for sure. And what I love is it sounds like in Like a Dragon. Uh, I don't
Ichiban.
recall the main character's
Ichiban.
Ichiban.
Yep.
It sounds like Ichiban has definitely carried that torch through.
Yeah, that's my
And
understanding.
so I think, yeah, the charm and like the charm and just good nature of the main character in a world that is this wacky Japanese underground is, I think, really what is the charm and appeal. And I think that people's want for that kind of oddness and sincerity, and to be completely upfront, or not completely upfront, but like I think looking at its core, it's earnest. Like Kiryu is an earnest character. His mission is an earnest, like in that sense of earnesty is severely lacking in like cross culturally, and I think that's why people gravitate so much towards that,
Yeah, it's definitely
especially in the last recent years.
Yeah.
a series that if you had told me a year ago that they had like they were up to like 6 entries plus, plus spin-offs and prequels and stuff like that, I would have been like, oh, I like the game has been so under my radar that I would not have been able to tell you that. Like I knew of Kiwami 1 and 2 because Logan had reviewed them, and that was pretty much like the first time really Yakuza even kind of came into my sphere in terms of this. But I think Like a Dragon in particular really impressed a ton of people, and was making its way into Game of the Year conversations last year. And maybe that is because it was just there is a goodness to it, which is what the world needed in 2020 especially. And yeah, I'm very much at the point where like I think I'm going to be pretty tempted to, once I finish Zero here, maybe just kind of skip ahead and be like, all right, let's just see what Like a Dragon is.
You should
then
still
I
play
can
6.
and then I can revisit some of the older games. I mean, like I don't want to like just jump to 6 though. Is the thing. Like I don't want to jump 3,
Yeah, that's
4,
true.
and 5. And not have a sense of what the stories are, because I've already seen like some of the. Like I was looking in general kind of
5.
synopsis to see where some of the characters end up, and I was like, oh, okay, like this series is going to span a lot of time based on some
Yeah.
character progression and stuff like that that I was not
Yeah.
expecting.
Yeah, and
Because
actually,
like
now
going
that I
from
think about
1
it,
to 2 is just like it's a year has passed. Also, I'm like
Yeah.
I do appreciate, at least in these early games, that like everything takes place at Christmas. So you just go into every store and they're just all playing like very rights-free Christmas music songs and jingles and stuff like that. I'm like, clever. And immediately I'm also thinking like Yakuza is a Christmas game, just like Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
there you go.
Yeah.
It's
It 100% is.
it's
It
one
is
for
the
me.
yeah.
It's one for me where I would just say that, like, to the point that you and Kemi just made, I think one of the worst comparisons that was ever made with Yakuza, and this is what I heard, because I've known about Yakuza since 2006, when the first one came out, basically, which is that, like, oh, it's Japanese GTA. And I
Oh,
think
God, no.
carrying that with me in the back of my head for a decade until I finally played Yakuza Kiwami 1 and then playing it being like, this is not Japanese GTA at all. And I think that's one of the things that I think, and again, as someone who loves, especially the earlier GTA games, I think it is a joy. It takes delight in how different it is from that, right? Like it almost lures you with that same premise, and it's like you're actually getting a very fundamentally different game, right? Like these characters are not the characters that are in GTA, right? Like this is if GTA is like this like pessimistic, cynical, borderline nihilistic, especially in the later games version of the world and kind of America and where we are. Yakuza is unabashedly, ultimately at its heart, like a very like optimistic, like hopeful, altruistic kind of game about like this core character and that's this kind of small band of merry heroes around him that very much kind of believe in some semblance of like good, whatever that can mean in the Japanese underworld. And I think Cam kind of hit the nail on the head for me, which is like this is a game series that is just earnest. Like it is just very earnest. It is very try hard in an endearing way, and I think you can't help but be charmed by Kiryu. Like, I think he's just a character who has a good heart, and like, irregardless of, you know, big giant open world video games or video games in general, just media in the since 2001, really, in kind of pop culture at large, it has not been a lot of just earnest, good-hearted heroes at the heart of it. It has been a lot more brooding, dark, conflicted, anti-hero kind of media. And I think that is absolutely one of the reasons why it's broken through ultimately. Like, I think absolutely it makes it just something different. Like, it is a refreshing game to play because you're getting characters who aren't really all that conflicted, right? Like, you're not getting characters who are all that complicated. They're either pretty bad or they're pretty good decently, and like there's not really a lot of gray to certainly the main character at the heart of the series.
Yep. Like any character that gets like the splash screen of like Tojo Clan something chairman blah blah blah, so a Tojo Clan subsidiary, whatever it is, like I'm like, okay, that guy's clearly gonna be a bad guy, I'm clearly gonna fight him. I have been frustrated at the number of guys I want to be the one that like fights and then I'm not, like somebody else takes them out. I'm like, you robbed me of that catharsis. Screw you. In particular, the guy in Kiwami 2 who kidnaps the little girl and has like the big old like fan, Shingoku or something like that, I think was his name. Like the fact that somebody else kicks him out of a window, I'm like, fuck you, I wanted to do that. Yeah. It is
weird. It's fun.
I mentioned this to
Cam.
They
can't have Kiryu. They can't let Kiryu murder people.
I mean, they have no problem doing it sometimes. So
yeah,
like, they clearly can. I mentioned to Cam in the last podcast recorded, like playing through Yakuza is interesting as an outsider to the series and to this other series. There are so many elements of Yakuza that I have always associated with Shenmue. Like the karaoke and stuff in Yakuza, I've always thought was a Shenmue kind of thing. And so there are those slice of life things that are in these games where I'm just like, these are such weird little diversions that don't need to be in this game at all and don't really add a ton to it. But like, because they're in there,
almost
like
very little,
all of the like entertain yourself. Like, you know, I'm having fun playing the bowling minigame. I hate the baseball minigames in these things, especially the fact that they change every time. It's like it was fine in the first game. Why did you continually change up the formula and make it more annoying? So there are elements of that.
Even the first game's hard.
I hate some of these things, and then like I just played this morning or last night or something in Yakuza 0, like a mini game that's like, you're basically playing a phone, like not a phone sex worker, but like a phone worker, like in whatever this culture is. And it's like a shooter game where you're having to like shoot the dialogue option you want to make on the screen or something like that. And there's just weird mini games in this series. And some of them like really hit for me. Like I said, the cabaret club in Kiwami 2 really hit for me. I love that Yakuza 0 has brought back the pocket racer thing, and I can be doing the pocket circuit thing again. That's a fun little like diversion when I'm like, okay, I want to take a break from like the main story. But then there are a whole bunch of others where it's just like, you want me to be a photographer for like these softcore porn site things? That's really uncomfortable and weird. So yeah, there's just, and then like, the game when it decides to be like, hey, we also just filmed these girls being very flirtatious with the camera, and the illusion or the implication is that Kiryu is just going in, watching a video. There's Kleenex here. He can just kind of, squeeze one out. And it's just like, what is this game? What is this series? That
Yakuza, baby.
That again, it was never meant to be this big. It was never. It was very much. It is a B series all the way through to its DNA, even today, and it retains that kind of that charm and that utter weirdness as well. And the cheese is all there.
Yeah.
The fact that Yakuza did not become the cross cultural phenomena that the first one was trying to be, ends up becoming one of its greatest like benefits in the long run, because you get these super fucking weird moments, man.
Yeah.
So good.
It is an odd series, but I'm enjoying it enough, especially like barring other things that I was more interested in playing. But one of those other things that I wasn't even necessarily interested in playing, but got super interested and put a ton of time into is Hitman 3, which I talked a little bit about I think in last week's episode. But I have now finished all of the Hitman missions, including everything in Hitman 3. I won't get into like spoilers or anything like that, but
Yeah, you're ahead of me then.
but you've been playing through it now, Logan. So tell us about some of your Hitman 3 thoughts, and if you've been going back and playing any of the other Hitman missions.
I've been absolutely going back. I've predominantly been playing a lot of the older ones. I've only done a little bit of Hitman 3 proper. Like it is what we talked about on the stream that we did.
A week ago.
Whenever this goes live. Yeah. It's and so Hitman's great. Like it's just again another series that just like is very tongue in cheek. Is very kind of like I was trying to explain to Shrav the other day because she was like watching play, and it's like I'm a hitman, so like I know what you think the game is, but it's like way dumber than that, but like also super smart and clever, and it's like really cheesy, but like also has like really like I don't know, like it's Hitman's such a weird thing, sort of in a lot of ways like Yakuza. It's actually not a bad pivot. It's just like a weird series that's very goofy and silly and has like these very cheesy moments, but like it melds them all together. I think probably better than Yakuza does, admittedly. But yeah, I mean, I'm constantly impressed by just how smart. Yeah, it still gets pretty weird, but not as weird. But like, I'm constantly impressed at just how cleverly designed every single level is. Like, it literally is a game where like you can just do almost anything in terms of killing your targets in any kind of way you want to, and it is so impressive. Some of the locations I think are just absolutely breathtaking. In all three games, I still think two, for me probably at least, is like the weakest of the three. But it is just so well done. I think the challenges, I think the weird, to Cameron's something he'll love, like the weird lore they give you on each target, I really love reading about. Yeah, and it is a great series that I can't remember who it was, and so forgive me, but like I saw someone that we all follow on Twitter tweet about how like he's frustrated because he's spending like an hour at a time on like every level. And it's like, welcome to Hitman, baby. Like, that's just the name of the game. Like, you're going to spend an hour on every level the first time through it, probably. Like, you're just going to spend a lot of time on these levels because, especially in these three games, they're all just huge. They're just massive levels. Like, it's just so easily to, like, I was replaying, like, the Marrakesh level in Hitman 1, and it's just, it's fucking ginormous. It's huge. And, like,
Marrakesh is
there's
enormous.
So many people, and it's so easy to get lost, and that's like the joy. Like, this is not a game that you're going to necessarily pop into for like 5 to 10 minutes and just like knock it out real quick unless you've done it before. Like, your first and third is going to take you 30, 40, 50 minutes. And like, that's kind of the joy too, is probably dying a few times, redoing it, kind of learning where to save very strategically, and just like going about and nailing like your run. And like I mentioned on the stream with Trevor, like Gene Park from the Washington Post, who reviewed Hitman 3 and is just a huge Hitman fan, talked about how everyone acts like Hitman games are supposed to be like these like super well executed assassination games, but in reality, every Hitman level and every Hitman game is just John Wick. Things go terribly wrong, and you just have to inevitably somehow like shoot your way out of it and just like run away and like try not to get caught, and like no matter how much you spend time thinking and planning it, it is going to go poorly, and the game has so much fun with that, and embraces that. Like, it's a better stealth mechanics and better, like, running away when things go bad mechanics than most actual, like, stealth video games, which I also really enjoy about Hitman. Like, it doesn't punish you for getting found out. It allows you ways to kind of navigate safely out of that.
Yeah, like I said, I've been playing a ton of it, and it was interesting because when we touched on this a little bit in the Hitman 3 stream, I had played through all of Hitman 1 and then basically like went into the first two Hitman 3 levels for the stream, and so had no context for what happens in Hitman 2, and very clearly like allegiances change over Hitman 2, and like this guy that gets proposed as like an enemy in the first game is basically like not what he seemed by the end of the second. And so going back and kind of seeing that arc across Hitman 2, I thought was like more interesting than I was expecting. It was one of those things like I went into Hitman thinking like I'm just going to enjoy the gameplay. I'm not going to care about the story. I'll let like the story and the lore be Cam's thing. And I found myself surprised at how much I enjoyed, like, you know, the bigger picture stuff, especially, and it's something I didn't have a sense of who the people we took out, like when we did the Hitman 3 stream of like the first 3 targets you take out, the 2 in Dubai and then the one in the Mystery Mansion. I didn't have a broader context as to who those characters were. And so going through and playing through Hitman 2, I was like, oh, okay, like now like that sets up and establishes who all these people are, who these players are and stuff. But yeah, I also love that like the first time through, I typically just like I pick, you know, a couple of the mission stories and kind of let a guided experience kind of take me. But then when I go back through and play level, especially the ones that I've gone back and played like multiple times to just do all the different challenges and just like figure out the different approaches to kill these enemies in every particular way. Like I've played that Dartmoor Manor one so much that I know exactly where to go, I know the paths that I want to take in that. So our friends at Kind of Funny, as we record this right now, are doing their second 12-hour stream for the month of January to, you know, celebrate Kind of Funny Day and kind of their 6th anniversary. And I hopped in yesterday to create a Hitman contract that maybe they're playing right now for all I know. Basically, I submitted it. So I'll have to like check out their stream after the fact to see if they actually played the one I submitted. But I went in and I basically was like, I know that Dartmoor level so well now that you can set up to 5 targets in the contracts. And I was basically like, in this, it's going to be like my storyline is Alexa Carlisle faked her death to bring all of her heirs together, and you're now hired to take them all out because she is so embarrassed by the rest of the family that she would, and I basically made a little Knives Out allusion in the description of like, she would rather see her money go to her caretaker's, or her brother's caretaker than to anybody in this family. And so I basically came up with this like idea of like, okay, the one of the brothers, Edward, is like dreadfully terrified of giving the eulogy at the fake funeral that they're going to do. So the way I'm going to have him murdered is I'm going to be the Undertaker and I'm going to go poison him. If you play out like the photography like storyline thing, the photographer kind of flirts with one of the daughters, the daughter, Rebecca. So I basically created this storyline where like as the photographer you have to kill her with like a screwdriver, which is like a tool that he has nearby in his whole little setup. So I came up with like a particular story path for each of the murders, like the shitty little kid that's in there who's like fooling around with a nurse. I basically was like, you have to dress up as one of the mansion staff who is a spurned, jilted lover of Rosie or something like that, and it's a jealous rage kind of thing. You have to, as a gardener, you have to take out Emma because she's kind of messing in the greenhouse stuff, and then finally, as a wild card, I was just like, and then just take that unicorn horn we found and kill the last of the guys, basically. And so I came up with this like contract. I did the whole thing in like 25 minutes compared to the hour and a half it took us that first time around of doing that mission. And so yeah, I've loved doing that, and it's been a ton of fun to kind of go back in and explore. There's one Berlin in particular in Hitman 3. I won't go into spoilers on it, but like it is. I didn't like that mission at first, but as I continued playing through it, I found like it is the most innovative mission in all of the Hitman games, and the most interesting and exciting one because it is the epitome of like, this is a sandbox, you can do whatever, because they don't give you any mission, like, because of what's going on in the broader story, you don't have a voice in your ear really kind of helping you along and kind of guiding you from one point to the next. So you do just kind of have to take everything you've learned in these games and be like, okay, well, there's a pizza delivery guy, so I can probably pretend I'm the pizza delivery guy, deliver the pizza, poison the pizza, and that'll, lead me to a path where I can take out one of the targets. Like, I love that mission so much. So, like, that's another one. I haven't gone back to it yet, but, like, I am very excited to go back and explore all the different other things I can do in Berlin in Hitman 3. But yeah, it's just it's a great, wonderfully designed game, and I do appreciate that if things go to shit, I can still like recover, or I can just be like, well, fuck it. then things are just going to shit, and I'm just gonna take this sword that I've got and I'm gonna slash all these people, like we did in Dubai, I think, and have a good time with it. Yeah. And there are just a ton of fun, creative, stupid ways that you can like take out so many of these enemies that I love, and I have, it is one of the most intentionally funny games that I don't think gets nearly enough credit for how intentionally funny a lot of the kills are. Like I joked with you, or I mentioned to you, especially with the addition of the banana in Hitman 3, and just how fun and stupid you can be with that weapon. There's a ton of fun stuff that you can do in there. Cam, what are your Hitman thoughts? You haven't played Hitman 3 yet, but what's your enjoyment of the series?
I kill a man with a fish.
Yeah.
I make a race car crash and murder somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can do that in the same level.
In the same level. I pushed somebody into or I murdered somebody in an alley. While blackmailing them or pretending I was going to blackmail them. That's all like one level. That's all like one thing, and that's just one way to play the story.
Is that while you were as the mascot, dressed up as the mascot?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty key detail of that particular kill. Is like you're also dressed up in a giant like sports mascot stupid ass suit.
Yep. I adore these games. I'm super excited to get into 3. I need to come back around and play those, but I just haven't really been in the mood to play anything lately. Just between work and everything else, this week has just been kind of rough. But I've just been really, really, really attached to these games for a while. I think like a lot of people, I was shocked when Giant Bomb named Hitman 2 their game of the year that it came out. And that kind of like drew a lot of people's eye to that game, and playing through them and realizing like, holy, like these are really, really intricate, great games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I get like everybody can play these games and have fun. One of my favorite things is I once distracted a general, knocked him out, locked him in a shed, and stole his uniform, and then walked around an entire weapons facility pretending that I was there to buy it for the U.S. government so I could murder a man. And did I also, like, did I murder him? Did I murder another dude in that same level with a Lamborghini? Yes, I did. That game is so good, man. That game is so good. The games are so good. I'm super stoked. I can't wait to play Dubai and the mansion level in Berlin.
You really like that Miami level, because that's like everything you've described is from the Miami level in Hitman.
Oh, yeah, it's all for Miami, isn't it? That is all for Miami. Sorry, I was trying to go around. I'm like, my favorite memories are from Miami, but I also love the consulate one, where like you have to kill like the Generalissimo that's there, as well as like the dude who's hanging out in the U.S. Embassy.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. Embassy one was actually like pretty intense at certain points, because there's just so much security there.
Yeah.
And like your levels of access in your disguises change so often.
Yeah.
So it's great. There's so many really wonderful levels and characters, and I'm just enraptured by Agent 47's just complete dry ass humor that he has. It's so good. When he puts off the one-liner, and it's just like, that's so dumb but so funny. Like you are just perfect. Or when you have to break into like the supervillain lab underneath the mansion, and that one.
Mm-hmm.
I walked in as a florist.
Yep.
And just like walked down into a base full of scientists. It was great. So good, man.
I think that a fun idea that we should think about in the future too, that Trevor already mentioned for kind of funny, is doing like challenge maps for one another, like challenge contracts. Like I think could be like a really fun like future streamer let's play idea as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like
that's to me. That's like, oh shit, I want to do Trevor's like contracts. Immediately what I thought when you said that. I was like,
Yeah,
I mean,
no, me too. I'm like, I gotta buy this game and like get that loaded up.
Yeah, we talked about this on the Hitman stream, but like my introduction to it was the Giant Bomb Hitsmith stuff back on the first Hitman game.
So funny. Watch if anybody who hasn't watched those videos, go back and watch those videos.
Yeah.
They're hilarious.
Yeah, they were a ton of fun, and so like they got me to try the game. The game didn't click for me like at the time. Like I played through a few missions of the first one, but like I'm really glad I hopped in and gave it a second chance here. This is one of those games like. Because that's a question that like often comes up in kind of our circles is like, what's a game that didn't work for you, like, you know, but then you gave it time and you came back to it and it really clicked for you, and like this is definitely one of those that I'm gonna have to remember as like my answer for that, because yeah, it's just been a ton of fun, and I love going through and really like trying to 100% a level on a like do all the different challenges, like figure out all the different ways to take out these guys that are the intentionally funnily created ways to do it, like or just like the dumb little things like in the mission where it is like the villa and then the like lab under the base underneath where you have to like destroy the virus or whatever. It's like also as just as a fun side challenge, wear a hazmat suit and then throw 3 people in the acid bath and just kill them, and you get like a Breaking Bad or it's like a Heisenberg challenge, completion or something like that. And yeah, it's just a ton of fun. I did the on that same map. There's like a challenge of there's like release the Kraken, which is like basically like you have to use a sniper rifle to shoot 4 bells in the right order on a boat, and it will trigger an event where like a Kraken appears and just like destroys the boat and sinks it. As like that's a fun, stupid, pointless challenge that has nothing to do with your like assassinations or your kills or anything like that, but it's a fun, dumb thing they threw in the game, and I love it. So yeah, ton of fun in Hitman to be had. I highly recommend it to anybody.
That's what I'm going to be doing right after
that hasn't hopped in. And one of the like really great things about it is that I like not only like shout out to IO Interactive for they announced basically they recouped their entire cost of the game in I think 4 hours, I think is what it said. Like the latest that I saw was like definitely like the first day of sales they recouped the entire like production cost of it because it's doing so well. But the fact that they put so much care into it and give you the option like, hey, like we really love all 3 of these games, and it sucks that you would have to like load one up and then exit out and load the other one up, and so like the fact that they made it so you can play the entirety of the series through the the rebooted series, kind of Hitman 1, 2, and 3, all within the Hitman 3 application is great. If you've played the games before, you can kind of carry over your progress into Hitman 3. I love that. Like the amount of like care and work that had to go into making that work is just delightful, and like I had not, like you still have to own the games to do that, but like the fact that Hitman 2 was on sale like in the lead up to this game, I was like, I'll buy Hitman 2. I already had Hitman 1. I'll buy Hitman 2, and if I like it, if I enjoy what I'm playing, I'll have it so it's there ready to go. And yeah, just being able to hop in and play through all those levels, all within like Hitman 3 was great. So yeah, shout out to that team. There's the Blessing, our friend over at Kind of Funny, did a great Blessing show on the like what makes Hitman really cool and what sets it up as like what gives him hope that the James Bond game that they're working on next is going to be amazing. It's a great video. Check it out. And yeah, I kind of like walk away with the same impressions, same thoughts. Like as much as like Logan has tried to sell me on James Bond games through the year and a half we've been doing, we've been talking about that nerdy site. Knowing that the people behind Hitman are making the next James Bond game is the most excited I've been for James Bond since playing GoldenEye with friends on Luke Ortega's bed, growing up at his house. just a ton of fun, and I'm very much looking forward to kind of what their approach to Bond looks like as a result of because I mean you can basically just take the framework that they've got with Hitman, throw a Bond coat of paint on it, and have some fun, more fun with that. So yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Unfortunately, that game is probably many years away still, but looking forward to it nonetheless. So unless anybody has any final thoughts on Hitman, I think we can wrap up the show. Anybody going once?
I'm good.
Going twice? Sold. All right. So that's going to do it. Thank you guys for joining me to talk about all these fun little things. Let's go around the metaphorical table with any plugs we might have. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to, give some love to, Cam?
I do. Just a massive shout out just for everything she's been doing, but Jess
Howard.
Howard, yeah, sorry. Blanked for a second.
Just
Oh, it's
Cogswell
'cause
or
I was
just
gonna call-
Howard?
I was gonna call her, but I was gonna call her Cogsword. I was like, that's not right. What's going on in my brain?
Yeah. Just Jess is fine.
Just Jess is fine. She is fantastic. She's been just killing the game lately. She was recently on the Late at Night podcast with GameSpot. She's just doing such an amazing job. Just massive shout out to her, and she's also just one of the sweetest, most wonderful people in the entire world. So
Yeah, no, definitely love to Jess. I saw that she got to do the GameSpot After Dark this week, and that was super exciting, super awesome. Seeing her get to make those moves. You can follow Logan at Lefty Logie. Anything you want to give some love to, Logan?
I mean, all of that nerdy content in general, obviously, I think has been really good. This past month, we're on a good roll. I'll give a shout out to another person outside of that nerdy family, or I guess still family. Chloe, I just saw had a merch line go up.
Oh yeah, that's right. She
as
did.
well. So I'll give a shout out to her and just Chloe in general, like we all knew, just absolutely killing it over there on Twitch. So shout out to that.
Cool. Yeah, you can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey, and the shout out I will give is go check out my Tecmo Bowl Let's Play on our YouTube. So
I need to watch that.
I basically went into it having
I have to
never
watch it,
having
yeah, I'm
never
so
played
excited.
Tecmo Bowl before. I was like, oh hey, like seeing it on the calendar the week after the Tampa Bay and Kansas City won and are going to the Super Bowl. I was like, oh, I can do that fun thing that they do with football games where like they turn it into like a prediction simulator or whatever, not knowing that Tecmo Bowl does not have not only like
Doesn't have no.
actual teams, it didn't even have like it had 10 teams in the original game. So I was like, all right. I looked through the 10 teams. I was like, okay, I can still make this work because I can just be like, okay, Miami is going to be the stand-in team for Tampa Bay, and Dallas I think is the closest to Kansas City. So I'll have, and then I go to play it, and it's like I pick my team, and it randomizes the second team. And I was like, well, crap. All right, then Washington apparently is the stand-in for Kansas City in that episode. But yeah, I had a ton of fun in that. I don't know which was higher, the touchdown count or the amount of times I say Tom Brady sucks, because Tom Brady sucks.
Hell yeah. Tom Brady sucks.
Fuck Tom Brady.
Fuck Tom Brady. I say that a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys aren't even Jets fans.
I'm not any fans. I just think he's a shit person. I don't care. Like you can
Yeah,
throw his
absolutely. Get it.
his laudits and all that stuff, and I basically say like fuck him and his MAGA hat. But yeah, I was like before sitting down and recording the Let's Play, I started like playing through the game just to be like I should know what I'm kind of what I'm doing for this one. And I was feeling really good. In like the first quarter, I had like 3 touchdowns already. I was like, all right, I got this. I'll be fine. And then like I immediately start shitting the bed when I'm recording the thing. So you'll have to see watching the video if I can turn it around. And what our that nerdy site prediction for the Super Bowl score is going to be. But yeah, it was a fun little Let's Play to do. So check that out. It's, I want to say like 20-30 minutes of me playing a very old school football game in Tecmo Bowl. So check that out. You check out all of that nerdy site content. I also sat down basically immediately after watching this week's WandaVision and recorded kind of impressions of the first 4 episodes so far. Originally, that was going to be me and Frank sitting down talking about WandaVision, but he had some last minute like tech problems and his computer is down, so don't know how long he'll be away from the content as a result of that, but hopefully we get him back up and running soon. But you can check out all that fun stuff over at That Nerdy Site or thatnerdysite.com. And yeah, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, maybe even consider supporting us over on Patreon, patreon.com/thatnerdysite, where every patron gets early access to a bonus monthly episode of the show, which I mentioned earlier. We recorded just before this was Cam and me sitting down talking about some of our, not our forgotten gems, our blind spots in gaming. Some of the series or games that we just like know are big and know everybody loves, and we just never sat down with or got into. So check that out if you are one of our Patreon supporters. Otherwise, that'll go live to everybody at the end of February. If you're listening to this the day this goes live, the early access episode from last month, which was Logan and I talking about kind of That Nerdy Site's 2020 and some of our goals for 2021. You can check that out. That should be available to everybody now. So yeah, check out all that fun stuff. Thank you guys for joining me to chat about all this fun stuff. As always, thank you for listening. Stay nerdy and be good to each other.